What's up, guys? It's V Renee. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I swear to God, I have taco stuff in my teeth. I feel it. I don't see it, but I feel it. Last summer, I did a video about my all-time favorite books ever, but that was a year ago, and I've read like 20 books since then, which may not be a lot to you, but that's a lot to me, and how the turns have tabled. A lot of those were absolute knockouts for me, becoming some of my favorites of all time. So without further ado, I want to get into my updated all-time top 10 favorite books. And I'm already cheating because number 10 is a two-way tie. Last year, when I did this video, these books were number 5 and number 10, respectively. And that is Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird and Roald Dahl's Matilda. I have to keep these books in my top 10 for the simple fact that these books meant a lot to me as a child and as a young teenager. They helped shape who I am, and they will be some of the first books that I pass down to my children once they're of reading age. As a bookish young girl who felt very misunderstood, Matilda was very, very important to me. And as someone who grew up in the South with some rural, racist members of my community and family, Scout Finch is very, very important to me. She was very important to me as a role model, to not just follow the herd and to think about what's really right and wrong instead of just doing what is easy. Both of the main characters of these books are strong female role models for young girls, and they made me feel less alone, especially to get a role model or two that we don't often get in children's fiction and you know, young classic fiction. To Kill a Mockingbird and Matilda definitely tied for number 10 out of my 10 all-time favorite books. Number 9 is a book that I don't yet own because it is a new edition, and it is The Merciless by Danielle Vega Rollins, which if you haven't seen my WIP inspirations video, or if you didn't watch the video where I did the TMI book tag, you don't know that I fell in love with this series, this book especially. If Mean Girls and The Exorcist had a baby and Stephen King wrote it, it's The Merciless. So you know that's everything I like. So it's about this girl who comes to a new school, and she's kind of brought in by the popular clique at the expense of another, you know, kind of an outcast, alternative type of girl. And the in crowd is very religious, and they decide that this outcast girl who's so evil and does all this bad stuff, whatever, needs an exorcism. And this book is not for the faint of heart. This book is not for the queasy. This book is not for people who are not fans of gore. I got a little nauseous reading some of it. Woof. Now we have number 8, which last year was also number 8, and that is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This book messed me up so bad that I had to let my little sister borrow it so that I had someone to talk about it with. And it worked. She loved it too. If you don't know, Sharp Objects follows Camille Preaker. She is a Chicago journalist who goes back to her Midwest small hometown to investigate the disappearance of multiple young girls. And when she's home, she has to kind of navigate and face the really complex, really screwed up relationship she has with her mother and her baby sister. If you know me, you know I like a fucked up family. So, and Gillian Flynn, she can do no wrong. She wrote Gone Girl, she wrote Dark Places. I personally think Sharp Objects is her best work. So if you liked either of those books, check it out. Number 7, which was number 6 last year, and for some reason this one really hurt to move, is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. If you know me, you know I am obsessed with this story. I say the story because I'm a horror movie junkie. I saw this movie when I was like 10 years old. I was Reagan for Halloween in 2016. If I can find a picture, I'll stick it in here somewhere. But if you don't know, this story follows 12-year-old Reagan McNeil, who starts acting bizarrely after she makes an imaginary friend through a Ouija board named Captain Howdy. Captain Howdy is actually the demon Pazuzu, and he possesses her. But the story is not really about Reagan. It is, of course, about Father Karras, who is a young, charismatic priest going through the loss of his mother and the questioning of his identity that brings on, and the struggle of devil and God and man and the themes behind the story, all while being very brutal and scary, just really piques my dogmatic interest like very few things can. I love religious undertones in pretty much anything I watch / read, and they may not have done it first, but they did it best. And the reason The Exorcist had to go down a spot is because this book was behind it last year and it had to go up a spot, and it is Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. If you've never seen any of my videos, read anything I've ever written, been on any of my social media, or ever spoken to me ever, hi, I'm V Renee, and I'm Shirley Jackson trash. This book has been ridiculously impactful on me ever since I read it 2 years ago. I read it while I was on vacation because this is light, easy breezy, beautiful, poolside resort fodder. This follows a parapsychologist as he invites some people with paranormal experiences in their past to visit the titular Hill House and prove the existence of ghosts. This is the original ghost hunting story. They done started the trope, y'all. And without any spoilers, because if I tell you much else about the story, you will get spoiled, they get real fucking haunted. Or do they? Honestly, couldn't tell ya. Their sanity starts to unravel, and the reader is left to question who is telling the truth, who is going insane, who has ulterior motives. There's lots of good, yummy queer coding between Nellie and Theo. One of my favorite quotes ever is from this book. I talked about it in my TMI book tag. I'm going to get it tattooed on my body. Just a perfect book. The next book was number 4 last year. It is now number 5, and that is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Paul Tremblay is the only contemporary to Stephen King, and I said what I said. Stephen King has said it himself, okay? I'm not making this shit up. This is another one that I post about on social media a lot and talk about a lot, but if you don't know, it's about the Barrett family. They are torn apart by the changes in behavior of their oldest daughter, Marjorie. Signs of acute schizophrenia begin to rear their head, and the father, John, is leaning more towards his faith and believing kind of that it's a demonic possession, whereas the mom is, of course, you know, she's mentally ill, she needs help, but neither approach seems to really be working, and they're depleting all their resources and falling on really hard times financially trying to take care of Marjorie. And so when they get an offer to be filmed for a reality television show documenting Marjorie's affliction, they can't refuse. There's so much to say about this book. The narrators, the twist after twist after twist, the way you become so invested to find out what is actually wrong with Marjorie. It is a book I wish that I wrote. And that is an understatement. Like that, this book is so powerful to me. And like I said, I love a fucked up family. More than that, I love a sister story. This is a sister story at its heart. This next one was number 3 last year, and now it is number 4. Also, my camera died. That's why the angle's all different. Hello, scary man. So I hope that doesn't bother you too much, but this was number 3 last year. It is now number 4, and that is the Forbidden Game series by L.J. Smith. This is 3 books. This is the omnibus, so it's not... You can read 3 whole books and feel like you really did something. It follows Jenny Thornton and her friends. They play a game of paper dolls in a paper house, and they get sucked into it by this guy. His name's Julian. He's the king of the elves or something. Think like Labyrinth, but scarier and sexier. And while that sounds like something I wouldn't like based on just like who I am as a person and my usual taste in literature, Jenny ain't no basic bitch. She ain't, and Julian ain't no basic if I can't have you, nobody can type of dude. Like, every character is not what they seem. All the women are badass, they don't need help from anybody. Julian is sympathetic and brutal and everything that you could want in a villain that's not really a villain, but he is a villain. He does villain things, but is he a villain? The grayest villain that I can think of. Also, Jenny should have ended up with her cousin Zach. I don't want to talk about it. I don't condone incest, but like it was clearly supposed to happen, and then the publishers were like, can't market that. it's there. Number 3, which was number 2 last year, and I got a lot of shade for my really, really shitty, well-loved, well-worn copy of this book, so I got a new one because y'all peer pressured me and made me feel bad about myself. It's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. This is the book that introduces us to Professor Remus Lupin, who is my actual father. This is the book where Hermione, who I thought I was when I was younger, punches Draco Malfoy in the face. This is the book where we learn about Sirius Black. This is a very important book, and it's the best book. It's definitely the best movie. I really don't care if you agree with that or not, because you're entitled to your wrong opinion. Do I have to say more? This book is perfect. This book is when Harry Potter started to age up a little bit and become a little more young adult. They're 13 in this book. I really like 3, 4, and 5 of Harry Potter. I know that's a controversial opinion, but it is true. And 3 is my favorite. Number 2, which was number 1, my all-time favorite book ever, for many years, has been dethroned. Number 2 is Carrie by Stephen King. I know. I'm shocked too. If you don't know, Carrie is the story of Carrie White, who is a teenage girl who is raised by an abusive, overly religious mother. Are you sensing a theme with like the religious things that I like? I love books with a lot of like religious commentary on them. Hello, read Civil Blood or like. But it follows her and the development and strengthening of her telekinetic abilities following the onset of puberty. It follows the extreme bullying she faces at school for being weird. It follows the extreme abuse she faces at home. And it all culminates on a night to remember in which Carrie has had enough. I related to Carrie so hard. So hard. I didn't have an abusive family, but like, I related. Like, I didn't get bullied that much. I related. Like, I didn't have telekinetic powers, but I related. Like, she is just so relatable. This is Stephen King's debut, by the way. He threw it away, and his wife was like, nah, you need to publish this. And he was like, nah, it's not that good. Sorry, what? What? Before we get to my new all-time favorite book ever, I do want to give a shout out to a couple honorable mentions. Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, that was on my list last year. Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix, which is a new read since the last video. My new favorite book of all time that I just read last month is Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Oh my. Mary Catherine Blackwood and her sister Constance live with their Uncle Julian alone in the Blackwood mansion on the outskirts of their village. Anytime they go into the village, they are harassed, gossiped about, treated like garbage for good reason. 6 years prior to the beginning of the book, the rest of the family was murdered by poisoned sugar. And it was assumed that the sister Constance, who did all of the cooking, was responsible. She was acquitted, much to the disdain of the public. The thing that Shirley Jackson can really do, besides like write, is portray the vicious town opinion. She wrote The Lottery. If you had to read that in high school like I did and you didn't know it was her, and now you're like, oh my god, she was always like amazing. Yeah, The Lottery, hello, that's like vicious town opinion, how it fucks everything up. That is her absolute knack. The twists in this story are incredible. I don't even want to get too much into what the story is about. That's the backstory. A cousin comes to town and kind of wants to take over the Blackwood mansion. He feels he's entitled to it because he's a man, he's the oldest, he should be the heir, blah, blah, blah. Kind of what happens from there. I read this on a dock in a bathing suit in 80-degree weather. In one day, I just sat on the dock and read this. It's not very long, so that's not like a feat. But I had chills. I had chills everywhere. I cannot even tell you how good this book is. Like, I'm Haunting of Hill House trash, but I am We Have Always Lived in the Castle trash. Like, as the children say,
we had to stand.
Like, we had to stand Shirley Jackson because of this book. If we didn't before, we do now. And that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed a trip down memory lane with me and some of my favorite books of all time. Let me know if you agree with any of these, or if you have, you know, if some of these are some of your favorites. I post videos every Wednesday, and I will see you next Wednesday with a brand new video.